Hi, I'm Julian, co-founder of Autron. So a few years ago, I was selling on Amazon myself and struggling with advertising like many brands and sellers have experienced. And it became increasingly clear to me that to be successful on Amazon, you really had to master PPC because Amazon was leaning heavily into it and more of the app was being given over to ad placements. So I have a background in machine learning and a PhD from the University of Cambridge, which incidentally is where I met my co-founder, Sean. So I thought I had the knowledge and the skill to be able to build a tool to fully automate PPC. Then I started reaching out more broadly to the seller community and realized that this was a more, a pain point that others had experienced and were looking for a solution. So this is the point where Sean and I decided to, build that next generation solution. So what is Autron? Well, simply put, it's a fully automated PPC campaign manager. We designed it to be as simple as possible, to allow you, the seller, to focus on what matters, which is selling, whether you want to do that from the beach or whether you want to dive, deeper into your business. Autron is a great hands-off solution that does all the heavy lifting and is underpinned by really great technology. So at this point, we've empowered hundreds of sellers, from businesses doing a few $1,000s a month to those doing a few million. So I just want to take the next few minutes to walk you through the simple steps that you can take to get started with Autron. So start by heading over to autron.io and then clicking on Get Started. So put in some basic information and complete this registration process. You'll then be sent an email just to confirm that email is legitimate. So click on the link in the email and then you will next land on this page. So once registered, the next step is to connect your Amazon account. So there's two connections that need to be made. The first one is to Seller Central. So this gives Autron access to your product catalog so it can start to understand linguistically what your products are. So it looks at the descriptions, the titles of the products, the categories, and starts to figure out a strategy of how to advertise those products. The second connection is to Amazon advertising explicitly. So this will allow Autron to be able to create and manage campaigns, as well as capture the data from those campaigns and use that data to inform the decisions that it makes moving forward. So there's two simple steps to connect. Then after that, there'll be a short period of where we syncing the data before we can get started with Autron. Once the data is synced, you'll be notified by email. It can take between 24 and 48 hours to sync the data, but please be patient because this is a super important part of the process so that Autron has all the information it needs to make decisions. Okay, so next, when you log into Autron, you'll be presented with this dashboard that shows you a summary of the recent results. But what we need to do to begin with when you're just getting started is to head over to goals on the left-hand side here, because we need to create a global goal. Now, the global goal can be considered the on-off switch for Autron. If your global goal is on, Autron is running. If your global goal is off, Autron is not running on your ad account. So what we need to do initially is to create that global goal, and we would recommend that you choose an objective of maximizing sales and a strategy of targeting an advertising cost of sale or an ACOS. You then need to set Autron a target, in this case say 20%. Now this is a function of how much margin you have on the product, how much profit you want to make. So you need to set your ACOS target appropriately. One thing to note is that if you've been running an ACOS of 100% on your ad account and you come in here and you set Autron a target of 10%, there's a big gap between those two. And Autron currently will only have data on how you've been running at 100%. So it's going to take a bit of time for it to figure out how to get down to 10%. So what we would recommend is do it a bit incrementally. Maybe, put a target of 50% to begin with, run that for a few weeks, then slowly reduce it down to that 10%. And, realistically, even 10% ACOS target is probably on the low side, right? I think in reality, what we see across our sellers is, ACOS is in the range of 20 to 35% is kind of ballpark where most sellers want to be. So I wouldn't necessarily think you should go, much below 10%, certainly not below 10% on that target. I think you always have to be realistic with giving Autron the flexibility it needs to run ads, right? And you turn on the Autron ad engine and then you would click launch. In this case, it says save settings. So when you do that, that would basically prompt Autron to go get to work. Now, when you turn this on and you head over to your advertising console, do not expect to see campaigns immediately appear there. There's a little bit of time in the background. You've given Autron the nod to say, let's go get started. It's going to crunch some numbers, start building a model around your product and the data we have so far, and figure out how to get started, right? So that can take somewhere probably between 12 and 24 hours for you to start seeing campaigns in the advertising console. So just be a little bit patient there. As I say, if your global goal is on, Autron is active. But in the first instance, it takes a little bit of time to figure out how to get going. And then, to be honest, you're done at that point, predominantly. This is the difference between Autron and other tools. You're not expected to get in the weeds of the campaign management. Autron does all of that. It will launch the campaigns, manage all the bids, and then optimize those bids to hit your objective. And that is the beauty of Autron. It's very, very low effort. You get a lot of time back. So to wrap up here, at its core, Autron is designed to be an accessible and efficient way for you to manage your Amazon advertising. And we trust in the technology and we hope you'll find it valuable. I am going to do a follow-up video answering some of the most frequently asked questions. But in the meantime, excited for you to join the platform and see what Autron can do for you.